Check, check.
Check, check.
Hey everybody, it's Rob. We're just about to get started with this week's episode. Less than 10 minutes left. While you got a couple of minutes here, why don't you go check out OTheAnthem.com. It's where you can find everything O The Anthem, including the merch store, the podcast, and all of the videos. Open up a new tab.
Anchor.fm/O The Anthem is the place where you can get direct links to all the podcatchers you use to listen to our show every week.
Did you know we record every episode live on Facebook? Of course you do. But make sure that you're liking the page and turning on notifications so you get notified when we go live.
We make a ton of video content between the podcast, the short films, Heretics. YouTube.com/O The Anthem is the place for it all.
And of course you can find me on any social network at Robert N. Cheek.
And me at LegendCB5.
And you can find the podcast at O The Anthem on all your social networks. Before we get to that, we have to talk about the ongoing thing that is the 2020 election. Most specifically, the president's reaction to the 2020 election. And this is, I think, the most telling image to come out of this entire election process. And this thing that you see to my side here is a list of Trump tweets. And don't worry, I didn't go to Trump's tweets because I don't want to do that. But I did go to a website where somebody was talking about his tweets and I stole their screenshot. So, but this is what they're doing now. They are just basically saying, he posts a tweet. The first tweet here it's actually from a couple weeks ago, but big press conference today in Philadelphia at Four Seasons, total landscaping. Oh, this
was nothing wrong about that tweet. Flag that one, Twitter.
Meme of the week was somebody who had their yard being done by Four Seasons, and they had like the trailer parked out front, and it was like, I feel like I'm meeting a celebrity.
They're taking advantage though. They are putting together T-shirts and stuff like they have a Lawn and Order T-shirt.
Yeah.
Make America Rake Again, I think was one of theirs. Like it's pretty good. They're capital. I always like it when a small business like this can totally capitalize on the situation.
I have not liked. I think we talked about it last year when we went home for Christmas, and a lot of Maryland was like, choose us for your plumbing and choose Trump again in 2020. And I'm like, nope, not using you. But I will take the punny advertisements by the company that got roped into this for no reason, clearly.
Well, it also sounded like the call that was involved in booking it was like, are you guys available for a press conference today? And it's like, yeah, sure, I guess. Like,
I mean, we don't have a conference room. We have the parking lot. We'll take it. It's fine. Is the sign out there? Are we going to be able to see the sign? Yes. Okay, we got it.
Good enough.
George, I just got the weirdest call. The president's coming here? I don't know.
Rudy Giuliani and somebody on the sex offender registry is going to be showing up.
Aren't those the same person?
Hit it,
Manny. Hey. But so what they've done is basically Twitter has censored the president. And I use this as an example just because his first tweet is relatively normal. It's just making a point. And then he follows it up with a bunch of like, the election is fraud and people are voting who shouldn't have voted. And Twitter's just basically like, nope, we're not.
Like this, like if you say you were going to court for something, right? Like you were wrongly accused for killing your wife, and it was really the one-armed man who did it, right? and you needed to hire a lawyer. And you look around, and you can't get any of the top lawyers, so you have to settle for Rudy Giuliani or someone of his ilk, right?
Wait, is he the guy with his hand in his pants in that video?
In the Borat, yes.
No, okay.
So you have to hire a Rudy Giuliani-like lawyer, right? And then you're showing up for court. You're like in your suit. You're ready for the whole thing to start. You're looking around for your lawyer. And then he comes in. He's just like, like, oh, sorry, I'm late. I got pulled over for a DUI, but it's all right. I bribed the cop. And you got to like look at him and you're just like, should you be my legal counsel at this moment? If this is how badly you fuck up on the way to help me, is this something that I want to examine further?
There's a meme thing that I loved when I was practicing law, and it's like, it's still good. It just doesn't, I don't see these on the daily anymore. It was like, you're going to jail if, and it was like pictures of lawyers where like one guy was wearing house shoes to court, and they're like, if your lawyer shows up with these, you going to jail. So you should just cut a deal. And one of them, the lawyer came in and he was wearing a Tommy Bahama shirt. And then he borrowed somebody's jacket to put on over it and pushed his very long hair out of his face with sunglasses. And they're like, if your lawyer looks like this, you're going to jail. So you need to cut a deal.
I can't even. And the other thing is that like Trump, in part of the preparing for possibly having to have a legal fight upcoming in this election, looked at Jared and was just like, we have the legal team all squared away, right? And Jared's like, yeah, no problem. No problem.
Got it.
We got it. And then he turns around and it's Pam Bondi and Rudy Giuliani. And like,
all right, who's still bar approved here? Anybody?
I would imagine that when Trump was like, get me the finest set of election lawyers you can find, like you're thinking that he's going to put together like an OJ style dream team or something like that. Like not Giuliani and Pam Bondi.
What are the odds that Jared put together a really great team, and then they went to meet Trump, and Trump's like, I don't know any of these guys. Who are these guys? And like, this is literally the primo election law team in the country. And he's like, nah, we got to get Rudy in here. Is Rudy still in the building? Pam? Is Pam here? Can we add these? And then all the other lawyers were like, nah, fuck this. And they left. And it's just Rudy and Pam now.
I don't get it.
But obviously, the point of this being, Trump is fighting the results of the election on grounds that, as a former attorney, do not make sense to me. As a political scientist, I have the degree. They don't make sense to me. As a scholar, if you will, of politics, they don't make sense to me. Have you heard anything that, other than the automatic recounts, which the states are like, yeah, we got to redo the vote. We got to count them again. And by the way, how upset's Nevada going to be when they finish in 6 weeks and then they got to redo that same vote next day? Poor people.
We'll have it by the next election. Don't worry.
But
by the way,
the
memes last week of making fun of Nevada were chef's kiss, just beautiful. I loved it. I was enjoying every single one of them.
Well, and I think I told you on near election day, my theory is that the state Secretary of State there was like, all right, we have a chance to be a kingmaker here. We can make every president come to Nevada. So we need to time this out exactly right. Okay, how far are we? 86. All right, we're right on track. Oh, Pennsylvania's caught it. Well, shit. Never mind. All right, just whenever you're ready, give me those ballots. Because it felt like they were trying to build it up to be like, Arizona's going to call, and he needs 6. He's got to get 6 to get to 270. And guess who's got 6, baby? It's right here.
What's amazing to me about the whole thing is that, like, it would be the same way if the election ever came down to California. Like, it was like all the states were decided except for California because, I don't know, some Republican from California was running for president.
This week on the The Anthem podcast, a lot less controversy, a lot less time. Let's hope anyway. But we're going to be talking about the biggest news stories of the week. Of course, that's got to include BIH, Rush Limbaugh. And of course, we're going to be talking about the death of someone else. Well, maybe not the person, but at least the career, let's hope, of Ted Cruz. We'll get into that. And maybe the ascension of some other stars, Beto and AOC. You guys don't know who they are, do you? We're going to talk a little bit about COVID, give you an update, some politics. Merrick Garland back in the news. What is it, 2016? SCOTUS is in the news as well, although not with Merrick Garland. And some sports ball. All of that coming up on this week's episode of the OD Anthem Podcast.
Ted Cruz. This is Corey, and this is the Anthem Podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody.
I had to warm up a little bit.
Welcome to episode 359 of the OD Anthem Podcast, coming to you from all over LA. But Corey's there in the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you for joining us on the podcatcher of your choice. The easiest way to find it is anchor.fm/O the Anthem.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And not a lot of anger, as I said in the intro, if you stuck around for that. Not a lot of anger. No call-outs in this week's episode, so I'm nice and calm. And we've set a 60-minute timer. That timer is now running, so let's go, Corey. Let's get into this.
Yeah, let's get right into it. No time to waste. And
so at the top of the list, I said, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go.
I was gonna say we fancy ourselves here at the the Anthem family as broadcasters from time to time.
Sure.
So it's important that we take the time to acknowledge the lost broadcasters that have fallen recently, including Rush Limbaugh. I'm sure Rob has very nice words to say. I wanted to set this up nicely so you could have all the.
I said in the intro, BIH, Rush Limbaugh, and I was surprised.
BIH?
Wait. Yeah, right? What did I say in our pre-show meeting? Fuck. Yeah, I already fucked it up.
It's BIH. What is that though?
Now I already forget what it stands for.
Burn in Hell?
Burn in Hell, that's right. Yes. Burn in Hell, Rush Limbaugh. And I think you've set a good standard, Corey, with what you said in the pre-show meeting, which is when the average person died, Lindsay Lohan, she's not a great person. She's also not a terrible person. She's had her ups or downs. Britney Spears, for every person that's like, let's end the conservatancy, somebody's like, Britney Spears is still alive? So, there's a mixed bag. But when she dies, when either of those two die, there's going to be like a general sense of like, oh, that's sad. Okay.
Yeah, lost too soon.
A little bit of my childhood will die at the same time. I mean, because the reality is, as much as I've abused my body, I will outlive both Britney and Lindsay at this point. So,
and when the lives eventually come to an end, it's always the incredible talents, the everything, it's always much higher than it would have been on just a regular Wednesday. If you were asking
how about
if you asked on Wednesday, how much do you like Lindsay Lohan? They would have been like, eh. On Thursday after the death, they would just be like, oh, she was one of my favorite actresses ever.
Yes.
And
continue.
It's a shame she never won an Oscar.
Should have absolutely won an Oscar. The pictures you won't see in the news after the death will be the pictures of both of them wasted in the front seat of some sports car, driving drunk each other home or whatever.
Not immediately, at the very least. The initial reaction will be a lot of like, I'm so sorry for this, and I can't believe it happened, and all that sort of stuff. Meanwhile, you live in a certain level of notoriety if 50% of the people who hear about your death are just like, good
riddance.
Thank God.
Finally.
And it's funny because I think back to when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and it was like one of those like 90-10 splits between people who were like 90% like, we've lost an icon, an incredible voice, feminist hero, Supreme Court justice, the whole thing. And then there was 10% of people who were just like, fuck RBG. And I don't think they did it because like they really had some sort of reason. It's not like, she like moved the Colts out of town in the middle of the night or something like that. It's not like she did something really terrible. She just, was a Democrat. So therefore there's 10% of people who are just going to be like, fuck her, no matter what. You
the
know,
people who are saying fuck RBG are also the ones who are screaming and crying because they have to wear a mask, calling the manager a snowflake as they're crying over the fact that they have to wear a mask in the store. And then they scream and cry about RBG being the devil as they're screaming and crying about it. So, you know.
I just I hope to, if I live with any kind of notoriety in my life or fame or any, however you want to establish a known quantity being your life, I hope that at the end of it all, there's not 50% of people who are really glad I'm gone. I just feel like I understand that Rush carved out a very good living for himself.
He did.
Doing all that.
Yeah.
And he probably doesn't give a shit that people didn't like him. But I don't know how I've heard a lot of people talk about legacy. Like when people get to a certain age, they talk a lot about legacy because they want to be remembered for something. And I just can't imagine that Rush would be overwhelmingly happy with the legacy he's left behind. Though I'm, in his mind, he did everything right. Like.
So we don't have anybody to yell at. I don't have anything super controversial today. So I'm gonna have to make up something on the spot. And here we go. I don't want Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears. I don't even want Rush. I want that Hitler level of notoriety when I die. 100% of people say that they hate me and the world would have been better without me. But 40% of people secretly are like, hey, he was okay. I mean, if you ignore the really terrible stuff that he said.
Listen, he was a great painter.
But also, more importantly, 5 years from now, we will not say Rush Limbaugh in most conversations.
No, probably not. Unless we're talking about like the history of conservative talk.
Radio, right?
Like, yeah.
And by the way, radio is probably gone soon anyway. So yeah, it's likely.
Well, I mean, it'll be conservative talk podcast soon enough.
Sure. Yeah.
when we're doing this over Charlie Kirk or something like that.
Lindsay Lohan, Britney Spears will also be forgotten. They'll also be forgotten. But I cannot go one day without having a conversation on Facebook devolve into, Hitler. Well, Hitler. That's the kind of notoriety I want. You can hate me. You can secretly
that desk
love
got
me,
legs.
But I want you to remember me forever. Talk about notoriety. There will not be a day for the rest of time when someone will not mention that name. And if Coco is right, because we have to bring Disney into this because, Nazis, you'll stay alive. You'll stay, part of the world as long as someone remembers and speaks about you. So just keep in mind, when's the last time that you thought about your great-grandparents versus the last time you talked about Hitler?
It's a real point that, I don't know what to say. It's so bad it's good in a way. Like
when you're right,
so,
you're right.
It's so bad it lives on more so than any other death in history in a way.
It's
like
just
other than
that.
you know what? The only one that has more legs, and this is the other side of the spectrum, is Jesus. Because people every single day somebody's talking about Jesus at least like 30 times a day. There's somebody who's throwing the average up so that at least once a day Jesus is thought about by somebody in America, kind of thing,
How's Jesus on the other side of the spectrum though? That's what I'm confused about. I don't really understand.
In the minds of many who assume that
okay.
Jesus.
Well, I mean, I guess that could be the same for Hitler, though, right? I mean,
not you and your whatever. I'm not getting into it.
Me and my ilk. But yeah, burn in hell, Rush Limbaugh.
Rather than the son on loan from God, how about the talent on loan from God for a second?
Hey, listen, the devil can apparently give out talent too, and I'm totally fine with that. I got a soul I'm not really looking to use and haven't. Gently used soul here, devil, if you'd like to make a deal. I'll be at the crossroads. And I heard a lot of people saying, people who were saying, fuck Rush Limbaugh. Listen, the man just died. Can we give him some respect? Fuck you. Because Rush had an ongoing thing on his show where he would read out the names of people who had died from AIDS or complications of AIDS. And basically made it a, thanks AIDS for killing these people. So I will happily, on the first opportunity I have publicly after his death, whip it out and take a piss on his grave because I can't actually do that because I don't think he's buried yet. But if he has ashes, I got something I can do with those two.
The thing that
I need a
the
box.
thing that kind of makes me the thing that I find interesting here is that, you know, we're talking about like Lindsay Lohan and like how the initial reaction if she were to suddenly pass or something like that would be like overwhelming support, even though she's had a very chaotic life.
Yes.
And then somebody will come out in the first 24 hours of the grieving and just be like, well, fuck her, because, you know, she was just a party girl and blah, blah, blah. And yeah. And then everyone will crash down on that person for being like, this is awful taste. You too soon. Don't do this to her. She just died. Like, it's tragic. And Rush would do the same sort of thing, but completely seriously as part of his show. Yeah. Like when the aforementioned Ruth Bader Ginsburg got cancer, he celebrated on the show. When Kurt Cobain died, he celebrated on the show. There's been the many people who died from AIDS that he would read off the names of. There's a long history of Rush being the person who would laugh at somebody's, you know, like
the millions
all too soon passing, you know,
millions who died from drug addiction or went to jail from drug addiction, and that he publicly berated. And then a few years after came on his show to admit that he had a drug problem and he was going to rehab for. So,
right.
You know, he didn't care about being a hypocrite. And I don't care about being a not hypocrite by calling him an asshole. Because I call everybody an asshole because, I don't know if you know this about, spoiler alert, I'm an asshole too. So I'm allowed to say it. Oh, excuse me.
Speaking of assholes.
I was going to say,
Cruz.
Speaking of fucking assholes. So we moved... over the course of the podcast, it has been recorded and released on many different days. We used to record Friday, release Monday, record Friday, release Tuesday, record Saturday, release Tuesday. Like, it's moved around based on our schedules, but I thought we found like a really nice record Monday, release Tuesday. We get all the news of the week before, plus like whatever drops Monday. That's going to be the tone of the week.
Well, yeah, because I mean, like traditionally you would, if you had some big news you wanted people to talk about all week, you try and do it on Monday because then people talk about it literally all week. As soon as it hits the weekend, traditionally news died, unless it was really, you know, like
really big,
a way bigger issue than just the.
Or we found it in the
week.
news dump. We'd find stuff in the news dump on a Friday afternoon and be like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
But then election is on a Tuesday. What the fuck? They call it the next week on. Well, they called it the next week on a Saturday. Trump filed his first post-election lawsuit on a Tuesday. Then the
Capitol insurrection was on
Capitol insurrection. Before that, though, even the voting for the Electoral College was on a Wednesday. So it's Wednesday, then insurrection on a Wednesday, and then Ted Cruz decides to get his ass on a plane during the middle of a fucking snowstorm on a damn Wednesday. So I
just feel bad because a lot of people have probably already heard their extent of Ted Cruz content for the week, and I just don't want to be spending a lot of time piling on with my thoughts as well. But nearly to say, I don't know if I've seen a political miscalculation by somebody who is aiming to be president that missed so badly. And not only just like the act of going to Cancun at a time like this when Texans are literally freezing to death inside their own homes.
Yeah.
And, you know, like horrible, tragic stories of people who think like, you know, it's so cold in this house, I can't do it. I'm going to close the garage and let the car run so that the heat gets in the house. And then you realize that you die from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yep.
Because when would you ever have an experience like that before? People like there's real awful things going on in Texas. And Ted Cruz was just like, nope, don't want to be a part of it. Just going to Cancun, Mexico of all places too.
Part of me says
because it's good for his family to get away to Mexico when it's for the betterment of them, but it's not okay for people in Mexico to come to America for the betterment of them.
I'm glad that Ted Cruz has finally understood that the story of a father crossing the border to make a better life, even temporarily, for his children. I'm sure that'll resonate with him now, and that maybe he'll change his stance.
No, he doesn't give a shit.
I think he is betting on what we've talked about so many times, that 4 years from now, 3 years from now, people aren't going to remember this. They're not going to care. He doesn't have to run for Senate. He doesn't have to run for the presidency. Nothing for 4 years. And he'll have 1,000 different fuck-ups between then and now. His hair was a story in D.C. Yeah. Then he flew home and flew to Cancun. And everybody forgot about the hair because they were joking about him coming back with dreadlocks because that's what happens apparently when you go to Cancun. When did that happen? Also, I've traveled extensively to the Caribbean, and I never thought like, let me get my hair just braided. I feel like that's a good idea. Anyway,
I've gotten a hermit crab before, but maybe you can't bring that back from Mexico.
I mean, I got hermit crabs in Ocean City, but
That's a different kind of crab. That's not a hermit crab.
It's what they call a hermit crab. Okay, that's what it says on the sign. But the
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other kinds of crabs.
Oh,
I thought you were just...
listen, there was a chastity wall. It kept me separated from the crabs. I was perfectly safe. But the cognitive dissonance of people to say like, well, so what? He took his family on vacation. It's understandable, but you don't have heat. He has heat at his house. All I'm asking is that he just pretend to suffer.
He didn't actually, and he left his dog there all by himself in the cold.
That might be the end of his presidency. Not his kids, not leaving Texas, but he left his dog at home.
Do you know what the dog's name is? Take a guess.
Ronald Reagan?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's apropos of this situation.
Is it something Mexican?
No, it's Snowflake.
Oh, really? Well, I'm sure he'd be fine in the snow then. Now, wait, is it a husky? Because I've seen a lot of TikToks about huskies
I think
that
it's like
refuse to come in out of the snow.
It's like a poodle or something like that.
That is not a dog you leave at home when it's cold. No, that's a finicky fucking dog. You're going to have a dog sickle when you come home. But, by the way, the cutest thing to come out of the storm. A lot of tragedy. It's terrible. But huskies who don't want to come in out of the snow is like the greatest thing ever. This husky's been living in Texas for 10 years. Never even thought he'd see snow. And it's snowing. And he's like, fuck you. I'm not coming inside. This is it. I'm here. I'm here for this. I love it.
It was like Becky, my Bernese Mountain Dog.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
would just like, as soon as the snow was there, it was just like, no, I'm an outdoor dog now. I'm just living out here.
Eventually, this will all melt. I'll come back inside, but for now, I'm outdoor. I'm an outdoor dog.
He literally would build himself like a little igloo and go inside of it.
But that's their element. But a poodle is not a dog that's meant for snow. It's not built for snow. It's not made for snow.
You get lost in the snow.
Yes. If it's white, I guess, and if they take care of it, which I would bet neither of those things are true. Although it's probably white. If it's named Snowflake, it's probably white, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to imagine that Ted Cruz, when Snowflake the puppy came into his life, he just like held it up and was like, you're going to be such a great prop one day.
Yep. Never thought it'd be the downfall of his presidency.
So, yeah, Ted Cruz first said that he was only going to Mexico to drop off his kids because they requested that they drop him off.
They asked him to take them so they could go on this trip. Right.
And then all the stories started coming out about the group chat from the neighbors in Texas and Cruz's neighborhood who let it all out that they were planning for this whole weekend getaway and Ted was going. And Ted Cruz invited some college friend of his or something like that to come down to Cancun for the weekend. The whole thing.
Part of the discussion was someone brought up going to Boston instead of Cancun because he said something about needing to get to warmer climates. When Boston was brought up, he agreed to Boston too. He was just like, anywhere but Texas, honestly, right now. I'll go anywhere.
Anywhere except for where I am right now. And you know, it's not that he really could have done nothing. I mean, like, as long as he was in Texas.
Don't you pull this Republican bullshit, because I've heard this all week too.
No. I'm not saying
he couldn't do anything.
No. I'm not saying that he couldn't do anything or that he shouldn't have done anything. I'm saying that even if he was just in Texas for this whole weekend and did nothing, he would still be better off than he was. Like, people would not be as mad about him doing nothing. Yeah. As opposed to him, like, intentionally fucking people, like intentionally getting out of the country and like being like, not my problem.
If he posted on Instagram his whole family camping out in the living room with like blankets and stuff, you're golden. Everybody's like, he's suffering just like us. And then as soon as you take the picture, like, turn the lights back on in the heat. God damn, it's cold in here. Like, but he didn't. He went to Mexico. And I heard Republicans all week long saying like, hey, what's he going to do? He's from Texas, but he's not a senator of Texas. He's a national senator. They're on break, which, by the way, they're on vacation again. Thanks, Senate of the United States. But I look at it and I say, well,
It's not like he punches out though. It's not like as a senator you're like.
And what is Beto O'Rourke? After he lost the race to Ted, what is Beto O'Rourke? What is
It's not
position?
like it's not like if 9/11 happened and you're the senator from New York, you're just like, it's my day off. It's like,
Congress is not in session, unfortunately. I wish there was more I could do.
bitch, I'm busy fundraising today. I don't got time for an emergency.
I got calls to make. Why is half the calls I'm making aren't connecting? This is fucking ridiculous.
This phone service. How dare
But what is Beto O'Rourke? What is his official title right now?
citizen.
Oh. So it's strange that he is getting shit done in Texas that the senator can't get done.
Calling people, like calling old people and making sure that they're okay. And AOC, for all the hatred that she gets in Texas, has raised plenty of money for people in Texas.
Well, listen, she raised some money. Some of that money was raised by people who were inspired by her. Do not give her credit for money she did not raise. How dare you?
She still raised $1 million more than Ted Cruz did.
That's also true.
Like the congressman from the Bronx decided to raise more money in Texas than Ted Cruz did. So I mean, I don't know what
Well,
to
we
tell
can't
you.
say that for sure. He may have raised a lot of money for himself with this Cancun weekend. I don't know.
He did send out a fundraising email saying that saying that the Democrats are out to get me for no big deal, and I'm here fighting for you. And the whole bunch of bullshit.
I'm here
Cruz,
fighting for you. It's the picture of Michael on the beach in Jamaica, like, hey.
Ted Cruz, for all the bullshit he takes, has somebody in his office who's so quick to send out a fundraising email anytime he gets in trouble.
But you know, it works.
Democrats are out to get me.
It works because if you're only watching OAN or ONN and Breitbart, that's probably what they said. Family man takes vacation, berated by left.
During pandemic. By the way, Ted Cruz, you should be quarantining.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What was it? I didn't even see this. You saw the other thing. What was the other thing?
Oh, well, when he got back, he there was some local police that he like cut brisket for in a parking lot and like took pictures with and stuff like that.
Not
but
so
I'm like,
safe.
You
Not
just
so
traveled.
safe.
You just traveled outside of the country. Like, what are you doing?
Well, to be fair, he didn't spend that much time in Mexico. He was literally on a plane for most of that weekend. So
He's got a couple of days. He's got a couple of days to. Nancy should just not let him back in, or Chuck, I guess, would be more.
I'm going to need you to quarantine for 10 more days before we let you back. Well, their vacation actually goes. So
we made a new resolution while you were gone. You got to quarantine for the rest of your life. Anyone who goes to Cancun in the middle of the pandemic's got to quarantine for life. Sorry, I don't make the rules.
To be fair, if you go to Cancun any day, even without a pandemic, you should probably quarantine when you come back. There's a lot of bad things happening in Cancun. I can tell from personal experience. Speaking of crabs that you might pick up at the beach.
But yes, more than anything, I just wanted to say to the people, I know quite a few people in Texas, and I know how awful this has been for all of them. So we're all thinking about you, and hopefully the lessons that are learned from this will actually be put into place to fix problems going into the future, because Texas had a close call like this 10 years ago, and they said that they were going to fix things and then never did. So maybe this is the opportunity to actually, like ready up the electrical grid.
Well, so they had a close call 10 years ago, and their response was to pull out of the federal grid so that they then didn't have to have any inspectors come in. So that worked out real well.
And it's the type of thing that it's not even Texas taxpayers who are paying for it. It's, your energy company pays for the extra winterproofing and stuff like that. So I think that considering the cost of energy in Texas fucking exploded. I saw some story about a guy who has an apartment that he was looking to rent. Like he had a tenant in there, but it's currently empty. So he's not running any electricity or anything in the apartment.
Okay.
He just had the air set to 60 so the pipes wouldn't freeze.
Okay.
That's the only thing running in the place. And over the weekend, he said it cost like $350. Just in the time that like the power has been out and the blackout and everything like that. Because the cost of energy is just through the roof. And there's people with, $10,000 bills for electricity costs. And it's to me, that's one of the things that's the most mind numbing, because you you don't know when you move to a state like Texas or you live in Texas that they're not prepared for winter if it were to come.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, like, if all of a sudden Texas went from, like a low of 40 and overnight and went to negative 40, nobody could have planned for that. We could understand why there's system failures in place. But, like, to think that you'd never get to the point where it was freezing, even though at certain points during the history of this state, it has gotten to that freezing temperature
in recent history.
Yeah, you have to think of it like, and like, imagine if you were just like these energy costs. Like, imagine you were at a slot machine in Vegas, right? And you put your credit card in, so like every swipe was just automatically debited off the credit card, right?
That's a bad idea. I don't.
And it's just progressive pricing on the polls,
Yeah.
So like, for the first 2 hours that you're there, you're pulling, and it's basically $1 every time. Maybe it's 95 cents, maybe it's $1.05 or something, but you're just like, yeah, whatever, I'll just keep pulling this. Then all of a sudden, at the 2 hour mark, it changes to $10,000 per pull, and nobody bothered to tell you. I would be like, what do you do? Like, that's the problem is that there's so much built into the legal system of getting some sort of like to sue the energy company to try and
good
get
luck.
restitution for this situation. You'll be in court for a decade.
Yep.
And then
they have way better lawyers than you can afford.
Yeah, you're paying out of pocket for a lot of lawyers to just try and get to the end of that decade, where maybe you'll get a punitive judgment of 10 grand.
$1.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right, but he's also dumb, and he shouldn't have paid $1 million to get $10,000
to fight this.
So $1 reward. But yeah, here's the thing: nobody's going to learn any lessons. If you're in Texas, I feel terrible for you. It sucks. You guys should have been ready for this, but you're not. But on the other hand, you only have your fucking selves to blame, because your governor or your ex-governor is tweeting shit like, we're going to get through this, and less regulation is the key to this. What we need is less regulation. And people were just like, that's right, in Texas, this is what we believe in. You deserve to freeze to death. Not all of you. Those people. See, I found another way to be controversial. Some people in Texas deserve to freeze to death if you are voting Republican time after time.
You see, but if you're voting Republican, you don't necessarily think, like in California, we sort of know, I have an assumption that if something really bad were to happen, take earthquake planning. LA has gotten very serious about any building that gets built after the earthquake, the
94.
Northridge quake. So I feel like, I might be in for a rude awakening, like the people from Texas, but like, it's like one of those things, like if I'm in a new building and all of a sudden an earthquake hits, I would feel relatively comfortable knowing that there were a lot of regulations in place to make sure that this building is earthquake safe.
Here's the difference though. I get scared every time you are like, oh, I got to go vote today. And I'm like, isn't that like the 15th time this year? Because I know every time you go vote, I'm going to get less money in my paycheck in the next 3 months, because more voting means more Democrats, means more taxation, more regulation. When you're in Texas and you're voting for Republicans, you know that means less regulation. Things are only going to get more free market. And if the free market ain't helping you in your paycheck every single week, you got to assume it's not helping your life in general as well.
Oh, right. But I'm saying, like, this is part of the reason why I think that back in the day, Flint was such an issue, was because, like, people just, like, to have water that was contaminated like that in America was, like, kind of the headline of every story. It was like, this is happening in America. Like, it wasn't happening in America for this entire time we've been a country.
Many years before.
But I'm saying, like, people were just so shocked. They were just like, how could the standards be so low? Like, what are the taxpayers paying for? They would think that at the very least they're figuring out a way to make the water clean enough to drink. Like, like that's the standard, by the low end of the standard by which we're going to be judged. And then, like, people get the rug pulled out from under them. I think a lot of people think when they're voting for Republicans to bring down regulations, they're thinking about things that are like, red tape. They passed a bill that says you're not allowed to go 5 miles over the speed limit on Sundays, and it's a 97-page thing, and it's like, why does it need to be so long? oh, there's all these regulations and red tape and blah, blah, blah. Well, let's cut out everything that isn't just the law itself. And then you realize later on that this law was actually, there was a lot of things you cut out of that actually could really help people. And, you're fucked. That's basically the long story short of it.
That's absolutely true. Republicans are dumb, Corey. I do agree with you. And also, as a harsh reminder, Flint still does not have clean drinking water. That story, long out of the news.
Though we finally got some charges against some people.
Yes, people may go to jail, but no clean water.
We never got a chance to talk about it because I think we were in the middle of an insurrection at the time. So, it didn't quite rate as a story we needed to talk about. But
the storm is not only impacting Ted Cruz's career and maybe that of Beto and AOC as well, and not only impacting people who are suffering through it, but countrywide, vaccines are now delayed. And of course, I'm talking about the COVID vaccine because FedEx and UPS built their hubs in Nashville and in Houston because those are two cities that suffer the least number of weather-related delays in history of the country, as long as we've been creating records. So, of course, that's where their hubs are. And those are two cities that have been unbelievably impacted by the winter weather that's come through. So apparently there is just vaccines sitting on a runway or in a storage there. Don't worry, folks, because it's negative degrees there. It's under freezing. The vaccine is fine.
Just leave it outside. Let it get some sun.
I mean, honestly, it's like, well, let's see. It's negative 40 out here. That freezer's running at negative 30. We can just turn it off and open the door. I think it's probably fine. We'll probably be all right. But it also means that there's no...
They cut regulations saying we couldn't do that. So
hey, it's Nashville, baby. This is Tennessee. It's almost Texas, but not quite.
It's 55 degrees. That's good enough, right?
Close enough. But here in LA, we actually had to shut down all vaccine distribution centers because they ran out of supply for like 5 days. They just reopened today, I think, actually. Even if some people were too scared to go and get the vaccine or chose not to because reasons that make no sense to me. But nonetheless, the vaccine is now rolling out. Here was the question I asked you. Of course, now that we had like a 5-day break without vaccines, the states took an opportunity to say, let's get our house in order. Let's get these tiers clarified. Let's figure out when everyone's going to get a vaccine so that July 1, everybody has one. And how many states did that, Corey?
I mean, every state has some version of a plan. But the problem is that if
look at this placating nonsense.
No. I'm saying the problem is
snowflake. That's what you are. You're a damn snowflake.
When you categorize things as a plan, it covers all manner of sin. Like I had a plan to run to the store and I have a plan to go to Mars are not the same. They're both plans for
Fair
sure.
enough.
But they have very different levels of success or work that went into them. Like we're not at the point where I feel like a lot of people's plans were just like written up on napkins and like
we got the gist. We're fine.
Yeah.
I think if I were Gavin Newsom and I were facing a recall vote that apparently is gonna clear the bar to be on the ballot directly at this point.
It's real close at this point.
Be close. So if I was him and I was like, we don't have vaccines for 5 days. So we have to stop giving them out. Not because we need to take a pause to figure this out, but because the supply was taken away.
Yeah.
I would use those 5 days to be like, all right, when they come back, I want to be able to tell every Californian when they can get the vaccine. What is your age? What is your certain conditions? I will tell you the date that you can get the vaccine if they keep up with supply once the supply returns. And then it started today. I went to the website, which, by the way, I realized after the fact, hadn't been updated. That's the same thing that was there before. It's been up there for a while. Tier 1, Tier 2. There were more clear tiers before they adjusted them. Now they adjusted them. They're less clear. I don't know when I can get one. You essentially don't know when you can get one, although we might be able to shoehorn you into this next group with some doctors.
I might be fat enough to get one.
With if you can get to the doctor, if you can find a marijuana doctor for a COVID vaccine, that's what I'm going to say. Doc, so what do you need today, son? I need a vaccine. Well, let's see. Let's look at his list. What do you got? Hypertension? You look like you got hypertension. I was going to write hypertension. All right.
What are you going to tell the doctor you have? I'm an actor. I'll improv. You have Legionnaire's disease? Sorry, a great Entourage
Something
quote. One
like
of my
maybe
favorite Entourage
migraines.
quotes.
By the, for people who don't know, Legionnaire's disease is a respiratory syndrome. So again, you wouldn't want to say
Medical
you have
marijuana
Legionnaire's
is not
disease.
good for that.
For a COVID vaccine, great. Marijuana, not so much.
Marijuana, no. I what kind of gets me is that it's not so much the way in which they've organized these tiers. It just feels like the tiers are, it's like the whose line is it anyway version of making up a list.
Yep.
Like the points don't matter. Like it's like, because
The rules are made up, but
were,
the points don't matter.
yeah, teachers were up there.
Yep.
I don't
for a
think they
while.
were in like the very first couple groups that were going to get it.
Second
and then all
tier.
of a sudden more of the issue became, we have to open up these schools, we have to open up schools, which I understand. Like people who have kids really want schools to get back open.
Yeah.
Nobody can agree on how to do so because everyone has different ideals of what that looks like, but I can understand why all of a sudden there was a rush to get teachers to the front of the line or closer to the front of the line. But at the same time, like, and again, I'm not trying to complain. I will patiently wait my turn, but there is I haven't worked in a year. So like, at a certain point, shouldn't I get at least a little bit more preferential treatment than the person who is like, 20 and perfectly healthy and well,
I mean, all I'm saying is the original plan had 5 tiers. I could say for sure I was tier 4. Ahead of me in tier 3 were teachers. Fair enough.
Yeah.
As a office worker / retail, non-interfacing with the public retail in an office environment, which is what I am, I was tier 4. I was very clear about where my tier was and when I could get it. There was a date next to it. Then those went away, and now the new tiers came, where it was like 1 is long-term residents of nursing homes and nurses.
and
Tier
medical,
2,
yeah.
Tier 2 is teachers and people over 65, everyone over 65, and with a doctor's permission, you could probably get one if you wanted to. And meanwhile, we're seeing stories about like, oh, well, at the end of the day, we had 12 doses that got thrown away. Like, that should not fucking happen. Like, I can get to Echo Park, which is not where they're doing vaccines. That's where they're doing testing. But I can get to Dodger Stadium in, 25 minutes?
Yeah.
You call me.
Even less of you. If you
I took
drove
an Uber.
there.
Yeah, if I took an Uber and not a scooter. But like, if you call me and tell me we got 15 vaccines, if you get your ass here, you can get one, but there's only 15. I will go up there 30 times and strike out 30 times.
Well,
On
you know what?
First time, I'll still come.
Honestly, a big part of the problem, at least here in LA, I don't know how widespread this problem is, but apparently there was a system that was being put aside to like portion off a certain number of vaccines for people who are no, like for like a racial equity thing to like hit the hardest hit communities in LA with some COVID vaccines. And they had like a special code that you would enter to be able to like not skip the line, but like, get in with the medical professionals, if you will.
Sure. Yeah.
And then that information that was supposed to be meant for underprivileged communities in black and brown neighborhoods quickly became white people finding out that information and then taking up all those slots themselves. So like the problem is that even if in the best case scenario, we have a completely equitable system where we try and do things reasonable and fair, there are going to be people who find a way around the rules that are in place, and they're going to rationalize. A lot of the people who in the story we're talking about it were rationalizing it as, well, they're just going to throw these vaccines away if we don't use them. So yeah, I signed up so I could get my vaccine. And then they're just like, well, no, I mean, this was meant for somebody else. And they're just like, I don't care. I got my vaccine. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you can't arrest me for it. Like,
so here's what I'm sensing. We talked about Hitler at the beginning of the show, Rush Limbaugh, Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about
a real murderer's row.
Privileged ass white people taking vaccines. I'm starting to sense a pattern, Corey, and I don't like it, but I'm going to say it anyway. White people are the fucking problem. That's what I'm starting to sense. White people might be the fucking problem.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, like,
I say that as a white man.
Yeah, I mean that that could pretty much be true for almost everything going back quite a while. So,
Yep.
yeah,
So I think it is an inverse proportion. Your fault at how bad things are today is inversely proportional to how safely you could time travel through time. I could safely travel essentially to the very beginning of time and be out of place. Like, I don't speak your language, but
Yeah.
hey, fellow white person, you don't speak the same language, but come sit at my table. Very much my fault. Everything is basically to blame on not necessarily me, but
well, I
my
mean, like,
race.
let's let people have the option.
I mean, they can blame me if they want. I don't really give a fuck. But meanwhile, I got a guy who's trying to sign up to get a vaccine, can't because some asshole white dude from the West Side took his spot.
yeah.
Can't travel safely before like 1992. And in LA, maybe even like 1999, really, let's just say. So,
I mean,
reverse
some would
proportionals.
argue that the
Even
problem
today.
hasn't really gone away.
Yeah, even
So,
today. So, wait, I said LA, not Minneapolis, Corey. All right, listen. So,
well, listen, they're firing out a side of the cars with paintballs and shit like that. I'm not not putting it past them.
That's Orange County, though. Come on, I don't count that as LA.
I could keep going.
But back to COVID, I think the major part of this story is vaccines are going to be coming. People are going to be getting them. Corey and I will get them eventually, and or we will die from COVID. So one or the other. At this point, I really see it as a coin flip. So
I mean, right now, the last I heard from Fauci and from Biden and anybody else in the know who was supposed to be delivering this information was saying May, June looks like the time where we would be able to get a large swath of Americans done by May or June.
Yeah.
So you would have to think that we are going to be within that May to June timeline probably for when we get the vaccine. And, so close to the finish line. Let's just not get sick between now and then. That's my number one concern.
Do you know where most people die on the organ transplant list?
Right before they get it?
In the top 100. When they're less than 100 to go before their transplant is when they usually die. So, just throwing it out. I'm just saying, we're at the finish line. Not over it, though. So, we'll see.
Until we get that new kidney, let's not count our chickens before they hatch.
The major story coming out of this, I said last week, and good/bad news, due to lower infection rates, lower hospitalization rates, and lower death rates, we did not hit 500,000 last week. Now, we hit it today at 6 p.m.,
Yeah.
so it took an extra day or so, but good. We're slowing down on infection, death, hospital rates. You make the interesting point that it's possible that we're just reaching like, hey, a lot of people have had it and or had it and didn't know. I made the point that I've been tested 3 times in the last week and nobody has been there. Anytime that I've gotten tested, one of the busiest sites in LA has no one getting tests done. So maybe just people aren't testing anymore. And
I mean, I've definitely slowed down on my testing as 2021 rolled over, and it's not because I don't want to get tested. It's just because I was, it's one of those things that you prioritize when you have like a free day to do it. At least for me, because I usually have to sit in traffic at Dodger Stadium. So,
well, that's a vaccine center,
now that
so you can't even go there.
I know I gotta probably go to Union Station or something like that, but we'll see. I definitely want to get one this week. So
listen,
it's been a little while.
The girl who I sleep with, like most of the time, not 100%, but most of the time, she's getting tested really regularly. In fact, she had an AIDS vaccine. So I'm probably fine. I'm just going to rely on that to be my test. So, and that mentality, although jokingly, because Corey is very safe compared to...
Also because there's not an AIDS vaccine.
Also, yes. Although it's like you live with it now, right? It's like a flu. Like you take pills and you're fine. It's diabetes now. I take pills. They don't even sense it in my system. It's fine.
It is if you don't have it.
I don't even have to use condoms anymore, Corey. That's how well it works.
Yes.
Please use condoms if you have sex. AIDS is no joke.
Yeah. The infection rate, the death rate, the hospital rate, it's falling all over the place. I don't think there's anywhere in America right now where there's like a really deadly spike or anything, or a really dangerous spike that's happening, which is good.
John's map is green all the way from coast to coast. Rates are falling.
I have to imagine though, just based off of like looking at the numbers in LA and thinking about, there's 10 million people in LA County, and we've had, we looked it up before, like 1.118 million cases
Like
in LA County.
1.28 million cases.
Well, like it's closer to 1 than it would be to 2, but like 1.12 million
it's
cases.
1.18. So 1,180,000, which is closer to 1.
No, it's 118,000.
Is it? I thought it was.
Yeah, 1,118,000.
Keep talking. I'm looking at it.
Okay.
I don't trust your numbers.
But that's people who have actually tested positive, as opposed to the people who still have not gotten COVID test once since the entire pandemic has started,
Right.
Who don't know whether or not they're sick, which is a lot more people than you think it is. And
1.18 million. 1,180,000.
there's 3 ones at the beginning of that.
Nope. There is a 1, a decimal, and then a 1 and an 8. 1.18. Don't question my
okay.
memory, son. Who are you talking to? Yeah.
All right. Anywho,
1.2 million.
we're off by 70,000.
Which hey, it's a rounding error when we're talking about the number of people who are suffering and dying from a deadly disease that no one's taking seriously. Because on my ride home, no masks anywhere. The pandemic
We're just
is over.
Cuomoing. We're just Cuomoing. It's all right. Just throwing some numbers around. It's okay.
Oh, listen, it's the way we draw up the numbers. You don't understand. I got a bank account. I got a savings account and a checking account. I got to move money from my savings account.
Looking at the numbers, though, I really do think that, at least in my mind, I've compartmentalized it like this. There's probably a quarter to a third of people who are really stringent about like what they do and not going out or not doing anything that they don't have to. And then I would maybe go up to a half in total are a combination of those people and people who are going out but doing it very safely. Like, you have to go to the store. You live by yourself. You need to get groceries at some point. But you're trying to be in and out. You're trying to do it at off-peak hours. You're trying to do all the things you can to remain as safe as possible. I would imagine
percentage
that
of people are going out to a bar because bars are open? I mean, it's a restaurant, but they're not eating. They're just getting drinks without masks and cheersing. And that. What percentage do you think that is?
I mean, I would say probably, a quarter of people are in that camp too.
It's about a quarter of my Instagram, that's for sure.
I would say that if you look at it in terms of like the cases, though, that perhaps in the last 6 months, which is what we're generally using as our beacon for how long you would be immune from the virus if you already had it.
Yeah.
I think, we might be just at the point in LA where all the people who are going to get or who have been trying to get it effectively are getting it, or had it. And now we're at the point where there's less people getting it because the people who are actually out to get exposed to it are
already had it
or no, already had it or are not going out to get exposed to it.
Yeah,
there's just 2.5 million Angelinos who are just staying home no matter what. And they're not going to get it because they never leave the house,
Meanwhile, there is a small sliver that are like the people I overheard at work today having a conversation about how they were so glad the pandemic is over because they really missed going out, and then proceeded to talk about all the shit they did over the weekend. And then I proceeded to tell them to go the fuck home or wear a mask around the office. Like, we have generally like if you're moving around the office, wear a mask. But I said, you need to wear it at your seat or you need to go home, because everything you said you just did, I don't want to have anything to do with that, and I have to be here. So you don't have to be here. You go home or you put on your mask. And they chose to go home because I refuse to be muffled by a mask, whether you ask me to do it or anybody asks me to do it. And I'm like, okay, so you don't wear a mask outside of work. That's clear. All right, good to know. Yeah. Good to know. But that's part of the worrisome reaction I think that doctors have talked about cases being down, deaths being down, hospitalizations being down, and vaccines being up, at least once this snowstorm delay gets out of the way, that people will be just complacent and say, it's almost over. I'm going to start living my life again because I've missed it. It's been, by the way, Corey, it's been a year. We're coming up on the 1 year anniversary of, if we shut down for 2 weeks, we're going to flatten the curve. And I hate agreeing with Adam Carolla, but there I did. I just did it.
Nobody did it though. That's the problem.
Yes. Wow.
If we actually all did that, then that would have been great because we could have gotten. it's just the worst part about this whole pandemic was the fact that we weren't going to have the answers of what worked the best until way after it was done.
Yep.
It was going to take hindsight and retrospect and people smarter than me breaking down very complex numbers to come to the conclusion that the mayor of Topeka, Kansas did it better than anybody else. And then we'll find out what they did.
Yep.
And then we'll be like, oh my God, why didn't we do that from the beginning? You know, like they had a complex contact tracing program. Why didn't we do that? And it's just like, you know, I feel like it's one of those, like, I have arguments with people who don't understand how viruses work. And they're just like, I don't know how to wear the fucking mask. And then I'm just like, all right, so at some point, one of us is going to be right, but I'm not going to be able to find you in 10 years when we know, like, for sure what worked the best. You know,
I mean,
like,
you might be able to. I mean, graves are public record, so you can find most places where somebody's buried. And God willing, the God I don't believe in, they'll be dead. Now, the fact remains that the people I see getting sick and dying are the people who are basically like trying to be very careful and still fucking end up getting sick. And the person who I see on the plane every fucking weekend going to a different goddamn place, vacation in fucking Mexico. I'm going to Miami, going to Vancouver, going skiing. Fucking been traveling the entire pandemic. Never got sick at all. Never even an inkling of sickness. So when I have a fictional serial killer who kills people who were assholes during the pandemic, they most certainly will, in this hypothetical and completely fictional situation, murder that person.
This upcoming book.
Murder the fuck out of that person in a very gruesome and painful way for all the grandmas. Speaking of gruesome and painful,
here I am just sitting not knowing what to say.
Speaking of gruesome and painful, imagine
like my face is just gonna be right next to this.
Listen, whenever I end up on TV, you know, running from the cops and having a shootout, this is gonna be the image. It's gonna be you sitting on that side, me sitting here. He warned us on his weekly podcast that this was gonna happen, and Corey just sat right there silently, not saying anything about it.
All I think about is like when you were telling me that, like, a lot of the people's reaction to your episode a couple weeks ago, and they were just like, what the other thing you heard a lot from the reaction was, but Corey's line was really funny. So I'd like to imagine I like to imagine that it's just like the crazed madman had a podcast. Here's a clip, and then they show it, and then it's just me like hitting like one really good joke at the end, and they're like the news anchor's just like, that was pretty good actually. I like that guy. I don't like the madman, but I like the
Jeff Franklin sitting somewhere like that guy's crazy. But I want to know if that other guy's written anything. I feel like he's really got a vibe. I feel like I want to watch something that I want to watch two people monologue at each other for 2 hours, maybe 3.5 hours of something he's written. That could be.
I want to make a combination of Malcolm Marie and Dinner with Andre. Is he the man?
Jesus Christ. What a combination. But speaking of gruesome and awful, imagine having to sit through a confirmation hearing at the Senate, Corey.
Oh, God.
How
I mean, all the senators are there.
Yes. Well, that. And listen, if you have the presidency and there has not been much controversy, it usually goes pretty well. Cory Booker throws you little pop-up questions like, you told me a personal story about why this really means a lot to you. Can you can you share that with everybody? And then you get to talk about how your grandparents are Holocaust survivors and the U.S. sheltered you and you want to give some of that shelter to new people in the country. Like, fucking A, yeah. Or you get Tom Cotton saying shit like, how you feel, we're really concerned about the politicization of the Justice Department and making sure this doesn't ever happen. No, not again. What I mean is it never happens because it never has happened before. How are you going to avoid that? Because you seem like the kind of guy who'd politicize something. And like, really, bro? Really? And this is why I can never be nominated for anything, because I'd be like, first of all, fuck you, Tom Cotton. Second of all, I'm going to ignore your fucking question. And I'm going to answer however the fuck I want. You ever heard of Hitler? Yeah, I want to be hated like him.
The reason why you will not do well in a confirmation hearing is because I can't remember her name. Biden's pick for OEMB, OEOB was getting raked over the coals about tweets that she put out about Trump.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, like Romney and Collins are not going to vote for her, and maybe Manchin isn't too. So it's like automatically like now we're done. Like there's no point in even fighting this kind of thing.
No, you
And
only
it's
need
just like-
50. You need 50.
It means you got to pick off 3 Republicans.
Wait. To get a 50-50 vote, you have 50 Democrats.
You have 50 Democrats, but if Manchin is not going to vote with you,
Okay, so you got to.
Then you're losing a
Romney is a
Democrat.
Republican.
yeah, and then you got to pick up 2 Republicans to be able to. Well, actually, you get the tie, so 1
You
Republican.
get one. Yeah, but you got to
Yeah.
go 1 for 1. So if you piss off one of the Democrats, you got to find a Republican willing to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
that would be harder than just getting Manchin back in board.
yeah, and
But,
if I
you know.
turned to Cory Booker and I was like, Cory, the fuck? I told you that in confidence, man. Like, what the fuck? Why would you fucking bring that up? And then I was like, all right, well, we lost Booker. So we got to pick up. What's the count now? 40. We got to pick up 40 Republicans. I don't think that this is going to happen.
But yeah, the thing that would be so awful and uncomfortable for me if I was Merrick Garland was Chuck Grassley starting the whole thing with like the like, oh, I'm so glad to meet you. I'm sorry we didn't have that confirmation, but it was right before an election, so we couldn't vote in a Supreme Court justice. Meanwhile, Merrick Garland staring back like Amy Coney Barrett. Like, wait a minute.
That's weird.
It's really weird for me to be sitting here with you refusing to give me a vote before, and then all of a sudden rushing somebody through under the same exact context, only closer to the election.
If only I was, married to a crazy Christian and a crazy Christian myself, or I liked beer and I got super wasted at frat parties. Maybe then I could got a vote. I don't know.
Yeah. Speaking of the people who actually did make it to the Supreme Court, though,
surprise.
they had a vote, a couple interesting votes that came out here.
Yes.
One, Trump can't hide his tax returns from the state of New York anymore.
Without comment and without dissent, which is others speak for unanimous, and we ain't telling you why, motherfucker. So
yeah.
I'd be super pissed if I was him. Just like these motherfuckers. I put 3 of these bitches on the court, and I can't get 1 dissent.
I can't even get a 6-3 decision or something like that.
I can't even get a 8-1. Like, you can't have big. All right, all right, ready? Loser's guide dissent. You don't have to. No, you don't have to write a dissent. You just have to dissent. No comment, right? All right, I'll write it. It's fine.
Though there was the other one, the Pennsylvania lawsuit about the
election?
continuation of the election.
Yes.
Pennsylvania lawsuit, where was Thomas the only one who dissented on that one?
I think so. Everybody's talking about Thomas just because it's. I don't know what the issue is, but basically what I would say at this point is figure out what Trump thinks about it, and that's what Thomas is going to rule on it. Like, it makes no sense to me anymore.
I mean, Thomas to me feels like the dumbest right-wing person you know.
Yes.
Like, go to your Facebook and find the one person who still has like the stars and bars as their cover photo. And that's basically what Thomas is doing these days.
I'm going to need you to be more specific, Corey. I got several of those people.
I don't know if you know this, but I grew up on the shore.
I grew up with a lot of those folks. So
I know there's a lot of Trump Republicans I know in my life. Probably a good 50% of the Trump Republican people I know in my life who, since the insurrection, have gotten a little bit quiet about the election being stolen thing.
Yeah.
Like they were just like, oh, I was led astray. I should never talk about this again. And therefore, no one will ever bring it up.
No apologies, but we're also just not going to talk about it anymore.
I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm just,
That's what we call the Rob Cheek School of Apology, where we don't say anything else. We're not going to apologize. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We're going to move on, pretend it didn't happen. Listen,
it's gonna be like me in about 10 minutes when we're talking about the Orioles' chances to make the playoffs, and I'm just like, they're definitely gonna do it. I 100% guarantee it. I will come back here if they don't. And then October rolls around and they've had 50 wins, and I'm just like, so about those Ravens.
Listen, at 2 a.m., everybody decided very responsibly to go to bed, and we had no discussions. There was no need for any of it, and we'll never bring this up again.
Clarence Thomas, though, is one of those people who's just like, it happened. They stole the election. It's just like, there is no evidence of it. So we should investigate it.
But that's the problem with a
people
lifetime
who will
appointment.
die on this hill. It's just the fucking.
And he's got nothing. No, he's got nothing to lose. Like he will be there till he dies. And if he chooses to leave, someone will pay him to come speak just because he's a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah.
I mean, unless somebody. Never mind. I'm not going to say. I'm gonna say that.
Don't even finish that thought. I don't have time for that today. You know what I do have time for, though? Just a few minutes of
What's that?
sports ball. Jesus Christ.
That might have been my most self-conscious moment ever because I was like, it was coming out, and I'm like, nope, probably should not say that.
So, I'm going to be a little bit short for rent this month. Perhaps I should reach out to Fernando Tatis Jr. because he's got plenty of money.
Does he? Wait, how'd that
you,
happen?
Robbie? He just signed a 14-year, $340 million contract from the San Diego Padres, or as they like to be called in the San Diego area, the Slam Diego Padres.
Oh, I thought you were going to call them the Los Angeles Padres South.
Los Angeles Padres of Anaheim.
Yes.
What is so incredible about this deal is not only the 14 years part of it, but the fact that Tatis is 22 years old, and this has taken him through 36 if he stays in San Diego for the whole thing. I liked the statement he made to the media when they were asking him about it. He said this was a statue contract.
Ooh.
It wasn't about like, like necessarily just winning a World Series or just being a part of the team for a certain amount of time. He wants to be with the team so long that they build a statue of him outside. That's his goal with this contract. So
I mean, I could dig that.
I like that. I think that's a very classy way of saying I want to be with this team for a long time. You know,
Yeah, I would say
I plan on being good for a long time.
Guys, that money's all guaranteed. I'm made for life. I don't know if you understand that. I'm done. I don't have to ever work again. He went the I want to play here. I want to win championships. I want him to build a statue. I mean, I also say I want him to build statues. But
Poor
for
Rob.
other reasons.
Poor Rob would sign the contract, and then he was just like, "So who remembers David Wright of the Mets?" Remember when he used to show up at spring training every year and he wasn't healthy enough to play, but they still had to pay him anyway? Fun, right? That was a good time.
I would literally
Mets fans loved that, didn't they?
I'd show up to the signing. I'd be like, thanks, everybody. Great to see you. Corey, hit me. And then that's when you would throw the bag of McDonald's, and I'd catch it and just dig out a cheeseburger. Be like, see you at spring training. Yes.
It worked for Ruth.
Son. I'm paid.
And then my favorite part of this whole story, when this contract ends, when this 14-year contract, by the way, just in your mind, take a moment of solace here and think about any job you would want to sign 14 years on the dot for. I mean, granted, $340 million, a lot of money. A lot of people would do that. I'm just saying, but like your job, sign on to your job currently right now for 14 years. It's a lot. I
mean, but again, for that money, I would do it. And more importantly,
but I'm saying, yeah, but for that money, but not everyone's a baseball player. That's the problem. Like,
I just
whatever
had
your current job for 14 years is would be
I had a
very different conversation.
1960, 1980 moment there because I was almost about to say, that's like half our lives. And then I realized we are older than 30. So it's actually a little less than half our lives. So, yeah.
It's all right. But when this contract ends, Bobby Bonilla, who we've talked about on this podcast before many times,
and we will again on July 1st,
will still be owed one more check from the Mets. One more. This is the most unbelievable thing I've ever heard. 14-year contract for Fernando Tatis Jr., and it will not outlive Bobby Bonilla Day. It's amazing to me. And again,
Fernando Tatis, 22, height of his physical, he's a physical specimen, making top dollar for 14 years. Bobby Bonilla, 57. Gets off the couch twice a day only to pee, and sometimes successfully, sometimes not. Also making money playing baseball or not.
Not $340 million over the course of this whole time, but still.
He might make that much by the time they're done with this fucking contract.
Listen, if you were to get a check for $1 million to $2 million every year for 15, 20 years, you'd be pretty happy with yourself.
I could turn that into
longer
$1
than
billion.
that. It's like 25 years at this point, right? Like, isn't that
no? 2001 was the last year he played baseball. 2008 is when they organized this thing. It's essentially 35 years since he played baseball that they are going to be paying him. That is unbelievable.
You could buy a $60 million house and just take the money out of the money that you're getting paid and put it directly into the bank to pay for the house.
Oh, I mean, well, he could have done that out of his 2002 paycheck because they paid him the full amount. It was just the last few years that they broke up.
Right.
No, but if you have $1 million and I say, hey, I still got my baseball time money. I'm going to put this in an investment. I'm going to buy some Dogecoin in 2008, some Bitcoin with this. You turn that 1.16 million into $1 billion today.
Yeah.
And it's just farting around money. It's fuck me money at that point. It's just like, what am I going to do with my Bobby Bonilla check? Wait, what'd you say, son? Dogecoin? That sounds fun. I don't know. Let's buy $1 million of it. And then you have $1 billion a year later. You're like, oh, well, I just keep getting richer.
I was just fucking around. One last thing before we go. Fangraphs, well-respected baseball institution.
Yes.
Recently put out a list of odds for every single team to make the playoffs.
Yes.
Now, we shouldn't be surprised by the numbers. I mean, the Dodgers had like a 96% chance to make the playoffs. They were the World Series champions. That makes sense. The Yankees had a 91% chance or something like that.
Always high. Always high.
Yeah. Even really poor teams like the Pirates had a 0.4% chance, or the Rockies had a 0.1. Only one team managed to get a 0% chance of making the playoffs.
Corey,
and that was the Baltimore Orioles.
Oh.
That was the Baltimore Orioles. Now, I'm not saying this team is good. I will put a substantial amount of money on them winning in hopes of being able to turn my petty bet into a Bobby Bonilla day-like payday. But I will say that it's awfully ballsy, even with a really terrible team, to say 0%. Like, literally no chance you make the playoffs. The Orioles were a week away of good baseball from making the playoffs last year. Now, I know it's a 40-game season, 162, blah, blah, blah. I get it.
It's going to be another COVID year, though.
The Yankees could be out for a month. Like, like half the team could get it at the first half of the month and the second half could get it at the second. Like, we can't guarantee that anybody is going to be healthy. And that's not different from any other year where, you know, some big star is going to tear their ACL in April or something like that. It happens every year. Somebody gets hurt. Somebody, you know, like, people don't do as well as you think they will. I think that 0% is an awfully ballsy call on the part of Fangraphs. And I get where they're coming from. It's not a likelihood, a big likelihood. I wouldn't say bet the house on it or anything like that, but, you know,
bet $30.
If you got $30 in your pocket, you could be walking away with a ton. What, it was 80 to 1 or 800 to 1 or something.
I was
going
to ask you if it improved after that 0%.
Oh, I should check. Yes.
That 0% came out. But yeah, I think it was. It was 800 to 1. 800 to 1.
I think it was 80 to 1 though.
Was it 80?
I think it was.
That's $2,400 on an $80 bet plus the 80 back. So
yeah, so Vegas Insider still has it at 80 to 1. Okay. Right? But let me just real quick. Fangraphs has us at 0%. Like, literally no chance the Orioles make the playoffs. I'm going to read off the number of teams that have equal to or worse than or better than odds than we do to make it. Okay? So these are teams that are hypothetically, according to Vegas, worse than us.
Mm-hmm.
Colorado, Detroit, Miami, San Francisco, Seattle, Arizona, Kansas City, Texas, and Pittsburgh.
Now, I'll guess that they're all probably like 5% or below chance by Fangraphs.
I mean, that's 9 teams. We're hypothetically, according to Vegas futures, we're, you know, and a bunch of these are 80 to 1 altogether. So you can make the argument that the Mariners are going to be better than the Orioles or something like that, even though they have the same 80 to 1 shot. But I mean, like, you know, only 4 teams have 100 to 1: Arizona, Kansas City, Texas, and Pittsburgh. So even on Vegas, they are more favorable of the Orioles than of Fangraphs.
But Vegas is not a baseball, place, and Fangraphs, that sports is their thing, right? Like, maybe they know better.
Oh, I forgot that Vegas has no amazing hotels that were built on the winnings of poor idiots like me who go and bet Orioles to make the playoffs. The reason why they have fucking Siegfried and Roy is because I'm putting $20 in their coffers every so often with stupid bets. So
things that I don't expect to win, and then maybe this holding out hope that I could.
Yeah. By the way, I'm gonna have to share with you at some point. I think I found Siegfried and Roy's old apartment listed on Trulia. So I'll have to show you that thing.
Okay.
Since I mentioned them aloud. Anywho,
Or put it in the show notes so that everyone can enjoy that.
I'm a tweet it. How about that?
How about that?
There you go. You have something to look forward to. You know
Yes.
what else you have to look forward to?
Wait. What?
OhTheAnthem.com. Corey at OhTheAnthem.com. Oh, the Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, at LegendsCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Got the first draft polished, so I just have to do the read over to make sure I didn't miss anything that I thought I got the first time, and then it'll be in the hands of Rob and a select few for notes, and we'll see what happens with the screenplay from there.
And you got new content coming, right? We've been hearing about new content for the last 2 months, so you know.
I'll give you a two-word response to that. Stay tuned.
Oh, really? Ooh, well, okay. And I just realized I don't have my solo set up, so we're going to stay on the 2-shot. So, hi, everybody. You can find more of me at Robert and Cheek on those social networks, robertandcheek.com for everything else that I'm doing. I may have some new content coming out, too. Just unboxings and updates on unboxings and not really super interesting stuff. I'm starting to do thought experiment videos on Instagram. So if that seems like your bag, join me on Instagram at Robert and Cheek. And otherwise, you can find me on either Modern Warfare or Cold War. Probably Cold War this week because the season's changing. But Robert and Cheek for now, soon to be changed to El Cocoy. EL space CUCOY on Call of Duty. So.
All right. Well, we got that going for us.
Hey.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I do not know if it's good. And in
Certainly
fact,
not.
Thinking back, I believe I mentioned Hitler in a positive light and compared myself to him. So probably not. But
you had
done
thoughts
something.
that would get us canceled.
Forget about thoughts. I just remember I never went through my tweets to clean those up. So yeah, I'll probably get canceled. It's fine. But as always, you're listening to the Oh the Anthem podcast, part of the Oh the Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Seriously though, 0%, like 0%, like not even. It's like the Atlanta Falcons are not going to win the MLB, get to the MLB postseason. Yeah, I get that.
Now wait. I'm not sure. They would give the Falcons a 0% chance of making the MLB postseason.
They give it 0.1. Fuck you guys.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers for sure would get like a 0.1. Like, it's Tom Brady. That man could do anything.